Well, good morning, everyone. I know the Packer fans are getting nervous, so we're going to start right now. And I promise we'll be done in time for the Packer game. Should I have said that? So anyway, we're here for our fall congregational meeting. As you know, our bylaws and the Constitution require that we do this 3 times a year. Once in the spring, once in the fall, and then our annual meeting. These meetings are intended to provide an opportunity for communication between the leaders of the church, the ministries, and all the people that are members to get an update on what's going on in our church and how we're doing against our goals and how we're doing financially and all that sort of stuff. So all active members of the congregation are fully eligible to participate, and what that means is vote if we do voting. Visitors are welcome into this meeting anytime. They just can't vote. So in addition to those that are physically present, virtual members can access and look at and view the meeting just like they can the church service. If by chance any of you that are watching virtually have questions or have comments, you can do that by texting or emailing Amy Drua. And her contact information was previously communicated via the emails that were sent out earlier. So, and then the other requirement for if we have official business at these meetings is for us to have a quorum. And a quorum means 10% of membership. Our membership in this church is currently at 400 people. So if you do that math, that means we have to have at least 40 people that are attending the meeting to hold an official meeting. And I'll ask our church clerk, Pat Evans, if we have enough. Pat? Okay, so we can have a meeting. I'd also like to identify those who have agreed to serve as tellers. They are Jim Sajak and Dave Lupton. They have microphones, so if you have comments or questions, just raise your hand, and they will come bring the microphone to you so you can identify yourself and then speak so everybody can hear. Also, these meetings are conducted according to the rules of Robert's rules, and those aren't necessarily Bob's rules, but they're Robert's rules. I do have my own rules, but I have to follow Robert's rules today. And so I've appointed Fred Steinke, who's here, to be our parliamentary procedural consultant in case something comes up. So with all of that pomp and circumstance, I will now call our meeting officially to order at 10:53. First business of order is to have a prayer for our meeting, and Pastor Amy, could you do that for us, please?
Of course. Let us bow our heads. Sorry, Tom. Let us bow our heads in prayer. Lord, we gather today in holy fellowship to conduct the business of the church, your body. We thank you that you are always with us and that it is your own doing to build and lead the church. May your Spirit move in our hearts, opening them to hear what each committee and member has to offer. Remind us that we are called to be bearers of Christ's life, light, and love to all we meet. Help us to live in such a way that we draw closer to your vision for us and journey faithfully in your way. In this time together, we celebrate the many gifts we all offer. Help us to offer what we can to your service and to your glory, mindful of our great giftedness in so many ways throughout our lives. We pray that this time would be fruitful for those in attendance, and may righteousness and peace be ours through Christ. These things we pray in the name of Jesus, the one we call Christ, in whose name and hope we gather together as a community. Amen.
Thank you, Amy. Thank you very much. The first presentation will be our church financial update from one of our two treasurers. This one is going to be done by Bob Frick. Everybody should have a booklet like this or one that was sent to you about a week ago with all of the reports and the financial statements in it. So Bob will be referring to that. And if you don't, there are extra copies in the back of the church. Oh, I'm understanding they're all gone. Does anyone need one? You can have mine. Okay.
Thank you, Bob. I'm Bob Frick, along with George Mueller, are the church treasurers for this year. This is our first year, so we're just getting our act together, still scratching our heads on a few things. I've asked Sue Zajac to time me so I don't go too long. So 3 quick, yep, I can, yes, thank you. All right, thanks, Mickey. So 3 quick takeaways. One, we're financially sound. We're headed towards achieving a balanced budget this year. Small gain, small loss, but overall 2022 will be a solid year. Second point I would say is, while we're a relatively simple organization, there are a lot of moving parts. So just looking at the financial statements can sometimes be a little distracting. So for example, we have 3 big annual events, the rummage sale, the golf outing, and an investment income that create peaks and valleys during different times of the year. So if you look at the statements in June, it might be different than July. We also have a bunch of special gifts and prepaid pledges that come in December and January. So the beginning of the year looks really good, and that kind of slowly amortizes over the year. And then finally, there are a bunch of pass-through activities. So youth mission trip, memorials, benevolence givings. There's more activities that we fund as a church that aren't reflected in our operating financial statements, and that's one of the things that we're looking at to try to streamline how we present the financials. And the information you see today is a little bit unique from what you've seen in the past, more of a summary level and less detail. And the third point is we'll have a challenge next year. I think this is the same message that Jim Natalizio provided last year and Bill Palm probably the year before. But as we go into next year, pledges typically have come down a little bit each year. We're on pledge this year, so we're on budget, if you will, but it will be another challenge for the stewardship team. We had some special gifts earlier this year. We need to repeat those special. We can't count on those special gifts again, so we'll need to look to fill that gap. And also, we saved probably $50,000 this year from having a part-time pastor rather than a full-time pastor. So fingers crossed, we have a full-time pastor beginning of next year, but that will also come with some costs we need to make sure we incorporate into next year's budget. So those are kind of the three highlights for the year. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me at any time. Both George and I are accessible, and hopefully we can get back and answer any questions that you have or any concerns. So that's it for me. Thank you. Yep, Mike. Mike, you go. Yeah, I know. Mike and I, we talked in advance, so I kind of, he prepared me for a couple of good softball questions. So.
Yeah, I have I got a couple of questions. On income, it says restricted transfers capital, $20,000, and then it goes blank, blank, blank until August 19.5. What was that?
So we took took out of our capital fund money to do the concrete work, both the apron up front as well as the dumpster pad. So that's reflected in the expenses, and we funded that through our capital contribution. So we moved that money back into the operating budget.
Okay, in other words, it was $19,000 for the concrete?
Say that again?
It was $19,000 for the concrete?
Yes.
Okay, then I have another question. In the expenses, administrative, it goes, I'm going to go March, April, May, June. From March to April, there's a difference of approximately $10,000. From April to May, approximately $7,000, and then it jumps up to approximately $20,000 from May to June, and then it drops back down to $5,000, and then it jumps up again to $20,000. Why is the big $20,000 jump?
Yeah, great question. So typically it's about $10,000 a month, but concrete work caused the jump in August, so that's the jump in the concrete. We also delayed some payments, and it wasn't our intention, but we had some phone bills as we changed and converted from our old phone system to our new phone system. So that was about $5,000 that was out of one month, went into the next month to kind of cause that variation.
Okay, and then the last question I have, and I think I asked this before, with Hearts and Hands, it's down in the balance sheet, it's got wages and Hearts and Hands checking. I thought they were separate entities, and why is it church?
Yeah.
Why is it in the church's budget?
Great question. So we don't have it in the church operating budget, so we don't have the revenues and the expenditures, but we are the same organization. We have the same tax ID number, so we hold a couple of balance sheet accounts for Hearts and Hands, that it's really the Hearts and Hands, I'd say organization's money, but we hold the cash on our balance sheet just for presentation purposes. But other than that, we're not running any expenses relating to Hearts and Hands other than the contribution. So Hearts and Hands makes essentially a tithe, and we see that revenue coming back. But other than that, there's no Hearts and Hands income or expense in our budget. Good. Thanks, Mike.
Was that easy enough for you?
That was good. Thank you. We did that very well. Yeah, good. All right, good. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. Appreciate that. And thank you for the underhand pitch. It does help, I think, and if you all like the way we did things this time with sending the reports out in print early and the financial statements early so you could have we can continue that. We're planning to do that unless everybody says, no, that was useless. So give us some feedback when you get a chance. Okay, the next up is a message from our youth director and pastor, Amy Drua. Thank you. What's that? Yeah.
All right. Before I give my report, I'm going to give Pastor Barry had sent his report that he had asked me to read on his behalf. His report states, as you know, Pastor Barry is preaching 2 to 3 Sundays a month and wants to share with you that he has been working with myself and Chris Mull for themes in preaching, especially as Advent and Christmas is approaching. There will also be a Blue Christmas service as myself, Barry, and Pastor Leanne lead it this year. Pastor Barry writes a weekly message sent to you by Jennifer on Fridays. He wants to remind you that he continues to be available by email or telephone. He thanks you for your graciousness. As for my report, my lengthy report was emailed out. As you can see, a lot of things are happening and going on within the life of the church, and a lot of activities are coming on the horizon. I'm excited to celebrate a lot of the Advent season with you and lead you into worship. The last Sunday in November, we will be doing a hanging of the greens, which I'm really excited for, and I hope it will be meaningful for you as well as we begin to prepare our hearts and our minds and our souls for the Advent season. Any questions? I know we got a Packer game, so I'm making it quick. Okay. Well, as always, if you have any questions or anything, I'm always available via telephone, text, or email. So I'm always there.
Thanks, Amy. Okay. We are now at that part of the meeting where each ministry and committee or project group has an opportunity to either answer your questions in some cases, or in a few cases, I am asking each ministry to actually come up and give a summary of their report, just for good communications. So again, does anybody need a copy of that book? I think we've run out of them, but I think everybody, if you can share with people if you've got an extra one. So this new format, as I told, was done specifically to communicate a little bit earlier and more timely, and then in hopes that these meetings might be run a little bit more effectively from a time constraint or a time management standpoint. All the other or groups and committees that are not officially going to be speaking to you are here and are available to answer any questions you have. This is really about the congregation getting a chance to find out what's going on and get your answers. So first up is me with the leadership. And you've got the agenda, I think, was available. And the thing I like and want to start with is our vision again and our mission. I think it's important that we look at that on a regular basis and really understand what drives the leadership group and what our barometer is for things that we do. And if you recall, and I hope probably can even say it out loud, is our vision is to engage and inspire all generations, from the 4-year-old to the 80-year-old, to connect with God through love, meaning we love each other as neighbors, we love each other as our congregation, and service. And if you put together love and service, you know, it's what church and Christ is all about. And so I think that's just so important that we think about that on a regular basis and maybe even daily. So, and you can also see what our mission is there and our values. And we really do feel that these are important. The leadership team, we use this as a guide when we're making our decisions or trying to think about changes. So some of the other goals that your leadership team had this year was to support the goals of the ministries, because that's really where a lot of the work is done in the church. Is, you know, we've got several ministries, 7 or 8, and we've got another 7 or 8 committees, and that's where the true work of the church is done, other than, you know, for our worship services, which are, of course, from the pastors. And so that's our job as leadership, is to support those groups and provide those some 85 people with what they need to do the work of the church. We are also still in the process of developing 2 kind of new committees, and they're the communications group and the membership committee. Both are working and have procedures in place, but you know, they're still a work in progress a little bit, and so we're working on that. We also wanted to redesign and change some of our collateral materials, our marketing materials. Certainly one of the most important things we're trying to do this year is to support the Pastoral Search Project group and give them whatever they need from leadership standpoint. We are also in the process of implementing some efficiencies and technology, new technology in the office. You'll hear more of that from John Kyle. So those are the goals and what leadership's all about. I think if you turn the page on the agenda, you'll see some comments. The progress we've made, I think, it really has been pretty good this year. I'm very pleased with where our church is at now in October as compared to January 1st a year ago, almost now. You know, we had, since our last meeting, we had some wonderful, wonderful outdoor services this summer that brought, you know, a lot of people together for some food, some outdoor worshiping, and, you know, we have probably one of the most unique church properties in the whole city, and we need to figure out how to even use it more. And we had, as Bob Frick talked about, we had our 3 largest community outreach events happen over the summer. All 3 were really successful, the first being the youth mission trip. We had 15 of our youth and 5 chaperones provide literally months of work for people in Puerto Rico. And how about that church service the day after they got back? I think it was such a treat to see the kids give a service like that and see the excitement and enthusiasm they came back with after helping a country that really needed help. And a lot of that's because of their leader, Amy Drew. So kudos to Amy. We also set attendance records and exceeded the budget on the golf outing. which we did on our own this year for the first time in a few years. And even more important, wasn't it, for those of you who were there, wasn't it cool and fun to just laugh with all of your congregation buddies? That's such a neat thing to do. And we had the largest ever car show. So those 3 events all happened in the last 3 months and were very successful. And then one of the other big things that happened is we surveyed you to death, we discussed it to death, we voted, and then we embraced having a single service. And for this congregation and almost all congregations to make that kind of decision and change the time of the service, well, that's like rocking the earth, I guess, in some churches. But, you know, I think it's worked out tremendously well. And if we had to vote all again, would everybody say yay for our new service, single service? Okay. I guess we did some official business. Okay. All right. The Pastoral Search Committee has been working tirelessly, almost meeting every single week. You'll hear a report later. But one of the big things they did is they, over the summer, other than interviewing some candidates, is they adjusted our church profile, which is a 40-page document, because it was built when we were a little bit of a different church. And then with lots of volunteer help and some hired help, we really did dress up the outside of our church quite a bit. From the concrete work that was done, from fixing up the memorial garden, to tearing out some ugly plants and planting some new areas. So I think the outside of our church really did, it looks beautiful. And we cut down some dead trees, and kudos to the guys who mow our lawn. We always have a golf course fairway out there every Sunday when I pull in, so kudos to you guys. And your church employees really have been working extremely well together and doing things that, when you read their job description, half of what they do isn't in their job description. So we're all kind of stretched in different ways in different parts, but they're doing an excellent job. So that's kind of the report of what I think is the progress of the church. We still need to work on some things. We're not done with our technology projects. We did have a goal to get several of you inspired to do a little video about why you love the church and why you attend this church, because we do need to let the community know who we are. And we're still not, I wouldn't give us an A+ grade on doing that as a church. We don't do a great job of that. And we're getting better. And I think we can continue to get better and work on that. So that's kind of the work that remains in a standpoint. So with that, are there any questions for me before we go into the ministry reports? Okay, first up then is John Kyle with the admin group.
Again, I'd like to refer you to the ministry report found on page 4. Just real quickly, I'm not going to talk a whole long time, but again, it talks about the hail damage repair to our roof building, the concrete replacement, the large dead tree removal. Just an update on that. We did have the stumps ground on that stump out front and also the one deck behind the kitchen. And then we have a new playground provided by Head Start. We're getting a new phone system that's in the process of getting installed and put in. We've had some difficulty with our elevator for reasons of connecting the emergency phone in there to the new phone system that's still ongoing, and we're still trying to get that resolved. And then we have a new copier coming. And the one I wanted to mention today is that we are looking for contract proposals for our snow removal. If anybody knows anybody that is interested in making a proposal to the administrative ministry, we're going to have to make a decision here pretty soon as far as who we're going to use for snow removal, whether we use the same company as last year or go with a new one. So please contact me or Jennifer if you have anybody that you'd like to propose. With that, I'll answer any questions that people might have. Oh. Yes, George. He comes over here.
Hi, my name is George Moeller. The only question I had, John, and I haven't been up on the roof. I haven't looked at it. I'm sure you have. Is it absolutely necessary that we fix our roof as opposed to possibly putting that $200,000 in a as a kind of a safety valve account and do the roof work when we absolutely need to do it?
We've been up on the roof and looked at, first of all, the shingles. Almost every single shingle has a pockmark on it from the hail damage. I would say the shingles for sure need to be replaced. One of the issues we're dealing with right now is the rubber roof sections and whether that has to be replaced. In the insurance estimate, it only gave us money to replace part of that. Wolf Exteriors has indicated they thought that more sections of the roof ought to be replaced with rubber. Again, that's to be decided. We're having a meeting Tuesday night with Wolf Exteriors to discuss some of this, and hopefully we'll have a better idea after that. One of the other areas is the metal roof on the Pavilion. We've got money to replace that roof. Again, I think that's more of a cosmetic type of thing. But one of the issues that has been brought up is that if we don't do the replacements as indicated by the insurance company, if there would be another storm coming down the road and we didn't replace that roof, then our insurance might not cover any damage to that. If a tornado came through, for instance, something like that. Again, we hope that won't happen, but there are some issues like that that may say that. We also just got an email from the insurance company saying, when is this all going to be done? Because we have another, I think it's $37,000 that will be coming when we finish the whole project, beyond the $206,000 we've already received. And we've also got approval for another, I think it's $11,000 for one of our air conditioning units. And we have a second air conditioning unit we need to have the coils replaced on that we're waiting to hear back from the insurance company that they'll accept that. So there are some repairs that need to be done. Again, whether we can save some of that money and not use it, again, that's something we're exploring, but it sounds like the insurance company won't release that additional $37,000 until they get indicated that the work has been completed. So we maybe have to do it.
Just a comment on the plowing of the parking lot last year. I know who did our parking lot was the best year ever. Just a comment on that. Years past, we've had issues with ice and all of that, but the company who did it last year was phenomenal.
We're again, the parking lot, if we go to replace it, we're talking probably $200,000 or more. Just to. No, I mean the snow removal. Pardon me? I was only speaking of snow removal. Oh, the snow removal. So, what would you like to know? Just. I was just saying last year was the best year ever, and I know you were getting bids, but that company who did it last year was outstanding. Right. We're looking at that, and again, we're trying to come up with the snow removal company, what parts of it will be plowed when. We probably, again, won't plow the upper parking lot except before Sunday services, but the lower parking lot that's used all week long will have to be plowed. And we're also looking at the salt issue. I think that was one of the concerns from last year. Anything else? Thank you.
Thank you, John, and thank you, Cindy, for the comments. That is good to hear that you were pleased with the vendor we used. It's just prudent for, as a business to, get competing bids, and that's all we're doing, really. So next up is the education ministry with Bonnie is going to take Melissa's place. She's doing some other things. So, and Bonnie can be really short because she's a Packer fan.
I'm here on behalf of the education ministry, and I'm new to that ministry this year as part of the leadership team. And I need to acknowledge Amy and that whole team, Jenny being here, and I'm sure others. This is a hard-working ministry. Without their personnel, our activities, our Sunday school, our outreach would not happen. So kudos to that group. Melissa put the report together that's in your narrative, and I'm just going to highlight a couple things. They've had 3 goals. One was to execute 3 outreach activities. The first one we did was Kid Fest, and that was a new experience for us. That was very, very successful. And then we have 2 others that are not in the report. One, Amy let us know at our last ministry meeting that she's meeting with Hearts and Hands parents on a monthly basis, kind of as a support group. Am I saying that right? Kind of as a chat, coffee and chat. But it's an opportunity for them to develop some camaraderie among them and maybe answer some questions they might have. And then the other one that is happening is I think Emily is working on something with our outreach again on Baking Buddies and extending that. So those are really our 3 that we probably will have achieved in 2022. The second thing was to work on strengthening our multimedia approach, and Randy, as an addition to the ministry, has been wonderful, Randy Burdos, and he's been working with our web people, and we now have a web page, youth, dedicated to youth, which we did not have before, and we have a QR code that we can actually access that page. So as we do outreach, we can start using that information. And the third thing we came up with was part of our discussion of how to support our Sunday school, and we're using a team approach. There's 4 of us that are taking lead on each of the grade groupings, and we now have a team that are signed up, and in fact, the one that I did was for today. And then we have some reliability as to who's going to teach, not wonder who's going to teach. I think we've had a good start, but it's like all things, we are having fall off, and there are so many things that are going on with kids to make decisions, and church doesn't always end up being on the highest level of priority. So as we continue as adults to work with our youth, little ones and older, having a connection with our church would be continuing important. But those are the goals in the report. Thank you. Any questions? All right, thank you.
Thanks, Bonnie. Mission is next, and I'm not sure who is going to give the mission ministry report. I knew Pam was out of town. I don't know if anything got communicated. So I'll take, if anybody has any questions, I'll certainly get your questions to that ministry and have them directly answer you. So their report is in the book, but are there any questions from mission ministry? Okay, we'll move on then to spirituality. Mickey?
I have just a couple of other things, extra things that aren't really included in the report. Does anybody have any questions about what's already in the bullet points that are, I'm not going to read them to you. Okay. Okay. Well, in keeping with our penchant for changing service times, I can announce that the service times for Christmas Eve are at 4 o'clock and at 11 o'clock. Amy will be presenting the 4 o'clock service. The 11 o'clock service will be hymns and scripture. We're winging it with lay people. Let's see, number 2, we had some regular complaints about the format for the bulletins. So Jennifer and I have worked on just keeping the order of worship in the bulletins and moving, if you're seeing that announcements aren't getting in there, they're on the back. But we needed to increase the font so that everybody could actually read what was in there. That was a concern. Let's see. So the service times, we did a recognition for the AV team this morning. That was long overdue and fun to plan. We had 2 different discussions from concerns from members about passing the peace. One was because of COVID. Right now, Chris Mall came to or spoke to us at one of our meetings, and the recommendation is personal responsibility. We can come up with a universal signal or something if we want to have personal space and not shake hands, but right now we are not, it's not looking like we're passing it really heavily. And in our church, it's really important to keep that up. The other concern about it is that it gets too time consuming, which yes, it does. And you can feel free to speak to whomever, but keep in mind, welcoming committee works on fellowship hour out there, and it's an opportunity to walk out and talk to 3 people that don't sit around you. It takes 5 minutes before we go back to all of our busy Martha stuff, and creating strengthening the bonds between us is just as important being God's work as anything we do outside the doors. So I would encourage that. The other thing to keep in mind is that when you have conversations out in Fellowship Hall, it echoes, but you're talking to one person. In here, it's being broadcast to the ethers. Any other questions? All righty, Sue Ellen? We don't have definite plans on that, Sue Ellen. We can certainly make that public as soon as we start talking about it. We haven't made such specific plans at this stage. It's just that we have the service time, so we wanted to let you know that, okay? Anything else? All righty. Microphone?
I'm Judy Schuyler, and I'm also with Spirituality. I just want to make a quick reminder to people to help out our ushers and everything. When you leave church, would you please pick up everything that you brought in and throw it away so our usher doesn't have to go through and clean out everything? We would certainly appreciate it if you would do that. But thank you very much.
Okay.
All good. Thank you. Thank you, Mickey. And good questions. Good questions. Stewardship is up next. Is there anybody from? Yes, there is. All right. Beautiful. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Carol Mulder. Just kind of a quick recap from Stewardship. We are in full swing for our campaign. This week, the congregation will be receiving a letter as well as an email kicking off. We'll have a full financial as well as a full time and talent request. Stewardship Sunday will be November 13th, but we will have some special quick announcements the Sundays before, and we look forward to everyone quickly returning their commitment, and I'm open to any questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. This is just going to be a little bit of a plug for the time and talent sheets. There are several people that are leaving ministries just because they're fulfilling their terms. And so the first place we go as a church to find people who we could potentially have fill those positions are who has indicated that in the time and talent sheets. So, please take the time when you get those documents to fill out and check a couple of boxes on how you think you could help your church. So thanks, appreciate that. Last is welcoming. Yeah, how can I argue with that? 2 for 1. That's a good sale.
Okay, this is Linda Davis. I'm Barb Brooks, and we are co-chairs for the Welcoming Ministry. Basically, welcoming is, it's very simple. We just try to do many things to welcome old members. Better. Old members and new members. New members is Linda's territory. We do many small things. I didn't really put them in that summary that I wrote, but one is Christmas decorations, recognition of mothers and fathers on Mother's Day and Father's Day. Probably the biggest thing for me right now is the finding people to greet, cover the Welcoming Center, and especially Fellowship Hour. So I have this really ugly yellow sheet that I've had out on the table. If you go to Fellowship Hour, and which I think Pastor Barry has done a great job of encouraging people to go, and many people are going, it would be great if you could sign up for one time. So I'll give Linda a chance to talk.
There appeared to be a need for more of a membership committee to be a part of welcoming, but to do its own work too, to try to keep track of on a special forum that we have that indicates people who are visiting regularly or are interested in finding out more about the church or joining the church. So we regularly meet and review the tracking sheets, and I do it weekly, and if somebody has indicated they're interested in finding out more about the church or joining, I contact them immediately and follow up with Amy or Pastor Barry, so the new people that are eager to join can do so quickly. We also, this year, had a new member brunch, which we did in conjunction, of course, with welcoming, in which we celebrated probably, I think there were 30 new members and also young people who have been confirmed in the past 2 years. And we had a wonderful brunch. I think everyone enjoyed himself. And we'll do that on an annual basis now that COVID isn't threatening us. So if anybody has any suggestions, I welcome them. I know I'm out of place here on the, but we're together.
Any questions? Nikki?
You guys have just been doing a wonderful job. That luncheon, that even for those of us who have been here for a long time, Judy and I sat with George and Barb and Pam and Mick Van Every. We talked about things I'd never known about them, and I've known those couples for years. The things you're doing are really helping foster the closeness between us, and I just think you really deserve kudos for that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, ministry members. Oh, there's another question?
It's not a question, but a comment. I think it's when we have fellowship hour, we love it. The only thing is, lots of times we get into groups of people that we know so much about or haven't seen in a while. I think we need to make sure that our eyes travel and see if we notice somebody that just looks new or is bewildered or you know, they may be interested in our church. And I think it's important for everybody to go up and just say, you know, good morning, glad you're here. And if you want to carry on a rather, you know, regular conversation, that's great. But I think it's important because that means that they are important to us and vice versa. So keep that in mind. Sometimes I know it's hard to go up to somebody new that you don't know, but we need that right now. We really do.
Thank you, Barb. Great comments. Great comments.
The welcoming committee decided to change the format a bit of the friendship folders that go back and forth every Sunday. We did so because we wanted to have the congregation look at the friendship folders when they're passed back. So if you see a name in the folder that doesn't look familiar or someone has indicated that they're visiting, we thought that would be a good way for people to recognize visitors as well. Thank you.
Great. Okay, thanks. Cindy, you are next.
Handed my notes. Only one on here gets an F for no report, right? I'm sorry, I did some notes, but it's going to be really quick. Cindy Meckel from Hearts and Hands. And we had a class this June, and we had a class in August, and we also joined Welcoming at Kids Fest, one of really the most fun events of the year. It's just a blast. Wanted to highlight the fact that, well, we have a new school year. This is all good. But we have a new playground. Go check it out. There's a story walk around the playground that Head Start did, and that's really cool. Also wanted to highlight the fact that we have been working really close with the HSED program. We have lots of high schoolers here during the week, and those high schoolers work really hard. Not only do they work really hard for their education, they work really hard for our church. I have asked them to help me with the gardening stuff. I've asked them. They have helped in my classroom. They mulched and weeded the entire front bed. And so just keep that in mind when you're looking for little projects that you need done. Those high schoolers are really good workers. Also wanted to highlight the garden down below. The McCullum family made a beautiful garden around our light pole downstairs, and that just looks beautiful. Thank you, Peg and Don McCullum, for doing that. And we're working a little bit more. I know this isn't Hearts and Hands, but I'm here all the time, so this is stuff I get involved in. The gardens out front will all be changed. So we thank everybody who's working really hard for that. And I just wanted to highlight our coffee and conversation that Amy is going to highlight with us. We invited our parents probably the third week of school to join us in the Pavilion, and they enjoyed it so much that we're going to try that monthly. And so I know they highlighted it a little bit, but we're calling it Coffee and Conversation. If anyone would like to join them, we're doing the third Wednesday and the third Thursday of every month, and it's literally 20 minutes. We give them coffee and a little treat. And I will say I have noticed our COVID kids are now coming, and these parents have had 2 years at home with their kids all by themselves. They need company. And so I am not saying that to be funny. I am very, very serious about that. And so I think this is really a great way for our church to reach out to our preschool families. Any questions for me? And next time I will do a report. Sorry.
Can't get out that easy.
I think Cindy has to let everybody know that she is our leader for Bible study on Wednesday afternoons. Yeah. And she comes, and she's great. So why don't some of you join us? We would love to have you from 1:15 to 2:30 on Wednesday afternoon.
Thanks, Teresa. Yes, that's a women's Bible study. We would love to have you.
All right. Thank you, Cindy, very much. Jill, you are up next.
Can you tell it's almost kickoff and I'm ready to go here? So I was inching my way up. Pastoral Search Committee, we have a report that hopefully you were able to read. We've had a couple of times throughout the year and a half we've been together where we've been really close at obtaining a minister. We actually are having one of those times right now. So it is in God's hands, and we ask for your prayers to, just make sure that our committee is seeing the pastor that we're considering in the way, I guess in the best way, and making the best evaluation of that candidate, and that candidate is also prayerfully considering us, and that we get the right candidate. So we appreciate all your patience. I've been really incredibly impressed with how patient you all have been, so thank you. Does anyone have any questions for us? And by the way, of course, you will hear right away when we finally have the candidate that we know God's sending us. Any questions? All right, thank you.
Okay, the next thing we're going to do is basically all the committees and groups that are not going to be presenting, their reports are all in the book. And so are there any questions for the personnel group or the Memorial Garden folks? Any questions from anybody from those groups that we can get answers to you? Go ahead.
My name is Peggy McCollum, and I was wondering if we could get somebody to do, let's see, what's the word I want, to figure out how much it would cost to run a path down there, either concrete or asphalt, because it's very difficult for some people to go through that grass. So if we could have some way so we could get some bids, so we get an idea how much it might cost.
That would be the person on your left, right in front of you. That'd be Fred Steinke.
Okay.
That's something Fred can do with his group.
Okay, and I know that for safety reasons, we also would have to have a railing for people to hold on to. So, but I'd like to figure out, and maybe we could start some kind of a money-raising committee, because Don and I have made the decision that that's where we're going to spend our time after we are no longer here. So,
okay.
Thank you.
All right. Great question. I'm sure Fred, I know the Memorial Garden Group has talked about it. I don't know if you've ever gotten serious enough to get quotes. Fred, do you have more comments on that?
Yeah, just briefly, Peg had mentioned that to me when I believe it was your brother-in-law or sister, and it is a really good idea, I think, to get down to the Memorial Garden, and with Bill Johnson too, when the service was for Ellen. It would be nice to have that. I did mention it to Gary Phillips because he has done a lot of concrete work here. I haven't gotten a bid back, but I think it's an excellent idea if we can get a walkway or a path going down there that's wheelchair or walker friendly is a big deal. So I will follow up and see what we can do. Thank you.
Thanks. Any other questions? Okay. All right. Then I'll move on. Are there any generic questions or concerns from the congregation that we should know about and maybe take action on? Any other? Yes.
My name is Sue Ellen Chopper. I meet once a month with some of our older members at Shorehaven who seemingly feel forgotten. If you have an opportunity to send a card or stop by, I think our people that are in our long-term facilities need to be part of our membership. They can't socialize at fellowship hour. And so please, if you have an opportunity, give them a call on the telephone. They'd appreciate it, or a card, or even stopping by.
Great comment, Sue Ellen. Thank you. Thank you very much. Anybody else? Okay. The last thing then is just, I want to do a little thank you to our staff and our church team, including Tom and Jennifer and Amy. Thank you. So I do need a motion to adjourn. Amy says she wants to go home. All in favor? All right, we're done. Thank you very much. Yes, we have a second. Thank you, Fred. All in favor? Anybody opposed?